Now we're going to go over Dan Villari, who might just be one of the best backup tight ends in the country because let's be honest, he's capable of being a starter. He can easily be a starter in a power conference, and it wouldn't even really be considered a weakness, to be honest with you. If Dan Villari was essentially any team outside of, maybe like a Georgia or something like that, for any other team, really, he would be a capable, fine starter, and you wouldn't really consider it a weakness. Dan Villari is 6'4", 235 pounds. He's a tight end from New York. He is a redshirt junior with 2 years of eligibility left. I do believe that he would use that second year he has left of eligibility because I don't know if he's quite an NFL draft prospect yet. Maybe he can become one day, but at least as of right now, on July 15th, at the time of this recording, don't believe that Dan Villari is an NFL prospect just yet. He can still get there, but maybe he might need that second year to do it. He is a converted quarterback. He did so when he went to Michigan, and then he transferred to Syracuse in 2022, and that's when he converted from quarterback to tight end. His role for next season, he is the Swiss Army knife of the offense. Last year, Dan Villari completed what is known as the offensive hat trick. I just made it up. He completed the hat trick. He had a receiving touchdown, he had a rushing touchdown, and he had a passing touchdown all in the same season. This is a guy who can start at quarterback. He won ACC running back of the week, and he can also catch passes, and he can block. The way to think of him, if you are a new viewer and you've never tuned into or you've never seen Dan Villari play before, and that's okay because you'll see him next season, think of Taysom Hill from the New Orleans Saints. That is essentially the prototype that Dan Villari is following in. Okay, there's only one Taysom Hill. There's only one, but the miniature version, so to speak, the miniature one, the college version, is Dan Villari. And what a luxury that is, that he is the backup tight end, the backup behind Oronde Gadsden. That's why I truly believe that this is one of the best tight end units in the country. Okay, because you have Oronde Gadsden who's elite. He's elite. NFL draft prospect, day 2, day 3, maybe even day 1 if he has a big season. Right? Nearly 1,000 yards a couple years ago. If he just stays healthy, he could easily hit 1,000 yards this season and break his own record, right? The backup is Dan Villari. Dan Villari, once again, would be a capable starter for most power conferences and most schools in those conferences. He would be a capable starter. His role is going to be dependent week in and week out, right? He is the Swiss Army knife. He can do a lot of different things. But having said that, his role won't be necessarily consistent because there are a lot of mouths to feed, obviously. And last year, as players started getting hurt and Derek Schrader's shoulder started acting up on him, that's when Dan Villari really started seizing control of the offense and really becoming a prominent player within the offense. So if Kyle McCord is healthy, and hopefully he is healthy, I think he could be very effective in the backfield with Kyle McCord, and he can honestly trick defenses into snapping it to Dan Villari, right? You can also run Dan Villari in the Wildcat. You can put him pretty much everywhere. If for some reason Kyle McCord goes down, then maybe if it's for a game or two, you can have Villari in as the backup quarterback and just run a Wildcat type offense because I'm not really confident in the Syracuse backup quarterbacks right now. Basically, when the starting quarterback is healthy, I don't know if Villari will be used as much, but if there's any sort of limitations with anyone on the offense, that it definitely includes Kyle McCord, then that's when Villari can really kind of be that next person in. He can almost fill in for anyone. That's essentially what Dan Villari can do. What Taysom Hill is in New Orleans. When Derek Carr is healthy or any starting quarterback is healthy for them, Taysom Hill, he maybe sees the field a few times a game, right? He'll get 10, 20 snaps, right? But when their starting quarterback is not healthy, Taysom Hill sometimes fills in, or at the very least, they start using him a lot more within the offense because they're not as confident in the backup quarterback. Similar thing with Dan Villari. Once again, a college version of Taysom Hill. That is what Dan Villari is. I think Dan Villari is a good football player. I think he is. His role will just fluctuate week in and week out. He'll have some weeks where he'll play 75 to 90% of the snaps. And he'll probably have other weeks where he's playing 20% of the snaps. It's just how it is. But that is an incredible luxury to have as a backup tight end who is capable of doing so many different things for this Syracuse offense. And why ultimately I believe this Syracuse tight end room, I would stack it up with pretty much any other team in the country. I truly would. You got Aronde Gadsden, you got Dan Villari. We're going to get to Max Mang coming up. And then you got two high school prospects, Elijah Washington, Jamie Tremble. There's a lot of depth to it, a lot of size to it. This Syracuse tight end room has me pumped for next season.